Given the current conjuncture, argue the case for greater community development through sport. Throughout this presentation, the main key areas which I am going to be discussing are what hegemony is and how it is affected by community development. Then it'll follow into what neoliberalism is and where that plays its part in community sport development. After these areas have been discussed, the presentation will then move on to what community development is and why it is so important and why we need more of it. This is then where we are going to break the presentation down into three key areas which I have chosen, which are COVID-19, cost of living crisis, and also the austerity issues which are known as funding cuts. Then they're going to explain why they are so important to community development and what effect they have. Then the case for why we need more community development will be discussed, and this presentation will then all be brought together and summarised as to why we need community development through sport. As stated by Worth, hegemony is the dominance of one social group or nation over others. Power comes in three different dimensions. The first dimension is decision making, so it would focus on minimal things such as any decisions made by a manager at work, or a football coach taking a football team. They make all the decisions, they dictate exactly what happens, so they are the key power holder in the team. The second dimension is a non-decision making power, such as not bringing something up and not talking about it. This links to sport as if clubs were wanting to create a full female team and they had a board meeting and they didn't bring this up. This is because they don't see it as important or an essential right now, so they just leave it out completely. Finally, the third dimension of power is the dominant ideology, such as the idea of football is seen by women and girls as a men's sport, and this is where hegemony would usually fit in with the powers. It is suggested that there are three different stages to power, and some of these are visible decisions, and some of these are non-visible, they're hidden behind closed doors, but they both affect the influence of what is going on. Neoliberalism is a policy model that encompasses both politics and economics and seeks to transfer the control of economic factors from the public sector to the private sector. The neoliberal story emphasises profit over people, which means that in the country they care more about earning money and gaining more money than people's well-beings, how people are living in this country. This statement means that the poorer people have to sit and wait for what is known as the trickle-down effect of money, which means the money eventually gets down to them after the rich people earn it. It eventually trickles down and down and down up until the poorer people. This gives rich people more of free rein to make as much money as they want, as the poor people just have to sit and wait and hold out for any money that they can grab onto once the rich people have built it down and down and down, which isn't right, as the poor people should be given just as much of a chance as the others. As in the above slides, I have focused on hegemony and neoliberalism. I have outlined key areas on what they both are and the issues which face them and the effect that they have on the community development, as these are reasons as to why we need more community sport and development in different areas. A community group is a group of interacting species, populations occurring together in a space. This then further links into community development, as development is improving something as a whole. Community development is important because the sports development side of it is getting many different people active who either aren't feeling like taking part in physical activity or have any barriers which are stopping them from getting involved. Community development helps these people, such as different community programmes like walking football for the older generation or wheelchair basketball for people who have impairments. Communities are important to bring everyone together and ensure that everyone feels included in sports which are advertised. It also gains more people getting physically active, so the government stats will increase and show like inactivity levels increase, mental health levels increase, there'll be less suicide rates. And community development also helps build stronger social relationships, so more people are going out and seeing friends instead of sitting in and not getting physically or socially active whatsoever. There are many key areas on what are affecting community development, and throughout the next few slides is going to be explained what each situation is and why they are affecting community development. Firstly, we are going to talk about COVID-19, as it'll be outlined as the first biggest issue, and it will then dive deeper into what it actually is and how it's affected community development around cities and towns. Then the presentation will move on to the cost of living crisis and what this did to the country to affect community sport development overall. And finally, the third issue, which we are going to be outlining, is the austerity issues, which are known as funding cuts, and how this has stopped people from taking part in community sport. After these key areas have been explained, there will be a clearer outline on why we need more community development and why it's so important overall. COVID-19 was a worldwide pandemic which had over 200,000 patients and sadly caused 8,000 deaths over different countries. There were many different impacts of the pandemic, and below are some of the key ones that I've picked out to be ideal for community development and how we can help it increase. It had a huge impact on health in the UK, as people were constantly ill and having symptoms of COVID-19, which were then making them bedbound, and they couldn't leave their houses, they couldn't exercise, they couldn't see friends. Other people are still to this day having COVID-19 symptoms, and this is called long COVID. This has affected their overall health, and when taking part in things such as physical activity now, such as if they're playing football or tennis or rugby, they're still getting affected now from COVID in 2019, as they can't breathe properly. They feel like they have real shortness of breath when playing. So it's affected people's mental health also, as they were stuck indoors and couldn't get out with friends or family. There were also a limit to how many times you could go out and take part in physical activity, such as walking and running. You could only do around half an hour a day, which wasn't really ideal for people who are usually playing sports constantly throughout the day, throughout the week. Another impact was schools being shut, as children weren't getting the face-to-face learning that they needed, and this meant that some children were really struggling academically. Schools also stopped children from taking part in PE, so they weren't getting the physical activity that they needed in a week to keep fit and healthy, as you couldn't go out, you couldn't see your friends, but they weren't doing PE at school either, so they weren't getting any physical activity in whatsoever. This has hugely affected the community in different areas, as many families are now under the poverty line, and this will be highly affecting their mental health, which means mental health in communities will be really low. There'll be higher suicide rates, which is not really what we need. This means that community sport development would be hugely important after COVID to bring everyone back together. And if people come and take part in sport or anything that brings people together, their overall mental health will improve, and they could help their effects of COVID by just playing sports or being with friends or family. Further, community development is needed, as this will help people recover from their issues post-COVID, such as their mental state. If people are suffering with long COVID, community sport development could really help them overcome the issues that COVID brought them, and it could really improve their overall well-being. As Webster and Neil state, the government sees the cost of living crisis as the fall in real disposable income. The cost of living crisis is having a major effect on families, especially the ones which are already living in poverty. Prices of food in supermarkets have increased, so some people's money are mostly going on bills for where they're living. They're stopping them from doing their weekly shops, and they have to cut out essentials to be able to afford a home. Tax prices have also increased, and this moves into inflation rates as everything is increasing, and with tax increasing and supermarket prices increasing, some people won't be able to afford their homes they are living in, and this puts a huge mental toll on these people. Mental health is hugely important, and with prices increasing and them not being able to afford things such as their shopping or anything like that, their mental health will be hugely impacted, and this is when people get so low because of the impacts which are going on around them. This overall shows that the cost of living crisis is having a huge impact on the community, and there has to be something which is going to stop this and help them get out of the mental state which they are currently in. Diving deeper into the cost of living crisis, it will be focused on the main areas in which are really affecting communities. The first key area which was affecting the communities is people aren't able to afford to live in their homes, so they are going without living anywhere, and this is affecting communities, as if people can't afford somewhere to live, then their mental state is going to be decreasing. They're not going to want to live anymore. They feel like they're in the worst possible situation. People in the area are starting to feel stressed as they don't know what they can afford. They are really struggling on what their money needs to be spent on. And stress also leads to mental health problems, and this is where suicide rates will increase. And this results in communities having really low mental states. Most people are losing sleep, and 12% of people are exercising less, which isn't good for community development, as obesity levels will be increasing and exercise levels will be decreasing, and this will have a huge effect on the community. Overall, the cost of living crisis has made a huge impact on communities, and mostly mental health levels are decreasing. So these are reasons as to why communities can develop through the use of sport. Using this can really increase community development, as people's mental health will start to increase. Suicide rates will really increase, and overall, the communities will be a way better place to live in. Austerity is a difficult economic situation caused by government reducing the amount of money it spends. This is also known as funding cuts, as the government are wanting to spend their money on different things, so smaller businesses are getting affected by this deeply, as they're fighting to stay open. The most deprived local authorities have faced greater funding cuts, which means they have less money to focus on their own communities and have to give money out wherever they find important. Austerity is causing the social risk effect, which is focusing on people of communities being unemployed, being in poverty, and also some cases ending up homeless. This all causes community development to decrease, as people are becoming homeless and in poverty from these funds. There are main issues when it comes to austerity which are affecting community development, one being homelessness. This links also with unemployment, such as little businesses aren't getting the funding from local authorities which they once were before. This plays a huge part in the future of these smaller businesses, as without the funding they can't run, and this is putting many people in debt and they can't afford their houses. They're in poverty and they also risk losing their homes and becoming homeless. Moving further into these issues, they are affecting people's mental health, as they can't afford anything like their shopping and where to live, and communities are then suffering with suicide rates and homelessness on the streets. We need to further develop community, as this will help people see that they are trying to help communities and pushing for the furthest funding they can get back, so they can all get back on their feet. Using sport can also help community development from the effects of austerity, as they can bring people together to boost their moods, and this will help suicide rates decrease and people will start to become happier. Most importantly, it is going to be described why we need more community development and how sport can be used to increase this. As described earlier in this presentation, community development is important for bringing the community together, and also if the community development is in a good place, then more people become active and people are happier within themselves. Finally, it also builds social relationships, as community development brings everyone closer together. However, there is currently not enough community development and not enough sport, and here it will be explained why we need more. Families, neighbours and communities have helped in the development in welfare provision, both financially and socially, and this proves how important community development is, and people coming together and helping socially and improving mental health levels while also helping financially and gaining more money from the communities. Further community development is needed and is really important, because communities have been struggling since the issue in the country, and having more community development will help this and push people to increase their mental health, increase financially, and it'll just improve overall completely. Overall, this presentation has helped understand what hegemony is and neoliberalism, and why they link to the community development. 3 key areas have been highlighted and how they also affect community development in different ways. Why community development through sport is important has also been fully outlined, and finally, the point for why we need more community development has also been discussed. I hope this presentation has helped to gain a better understanding of what community development is and why we need to push for more of it. And here is my reference list. Thank you for listening.